Today is Vision Sunday, and it's a day in which we just prepare to kind of get you on board for what we sense in our spirit, in our heart, for what God's going to do in the coming 12 months. As I step up here today and over the past several weeks preparing for these next just few moments to share with you, we've been thinking a lot about what God's already done in the past 2 years. And one of our leaders were saying, hey, I went back and watched Vision Sunday from last year, and they were like, mind blown, right? Because at that time, it just felt like so many things that we really believed God for and trusted God for in this year. Over the past 2 years, we've seen a new next-gen building, a new warehouse take place right over here, being built debt-free. Really, all the facilities on our campus be gutted. We just wrapped up that kind of last leg of that with this brand new backyard area, as well as the renovation of our food pantry to now have a walk-in cooler. And we got to make great use of that leading into the blessing and be able to bless more than 100 families over the Thanksgiving week. And so I just love all that God's done. It's just amazing. There's been so much just visually that we've been able to witness with our eyes that God is doing. And as we move into 2023, the Lord just kept bringing a word to my spirit that I could not get away from. And it's this word, anchored. Anchored. I really sense deeply within my heart that the only way I could describe it as like divine restraint to take us deeper and to anchor us in first the hope of the gospel. The hope of the truth of the gospel. It's essential that we go deeper and deeper in the truth of the gospel. Over the past couple of years, we've had opportunities, every single one of us in your individual life, you can think about how the wind and the waves have kind of rocked your life at different times. Whether that was financial, whether that was family, whether that was business, or whether that was great celebrations or in intense loss in seasons and pain. But it's the hope of the gospel that anchors us. And so what I really feel in my spirit going into next year, that God wants to take us, and I could say this every single year, that God wants to take us deeper. He wants us to take us deeper. And what I believe really happens when we go deeper is growth actually takes place. It might not take place visually where we see it yet. There will be a harvest at some point, but God wants to take us deeper. And when there's growth, the reality of that, it sounds exciting. Yeah, I'd love to grow spiritually. I'd love to go deeper in the Lord. But the reality of what that growth means is it takes us out of our comfort zone. And I really feel that so deeply in my heart for every single one of us. God wants to take us deeper and He wants to grow us, but that's going to require us moving out of our comfort zone. I really began to have the word Jubilee show up just in my heart. I just kind of kept coming back to the Jewish understanding of what the year, there was a year, the 50th year was a year of Jubilee. This is not our 50th anniversary. But the Lord kept bringing that word back. And the year of Jubilee for Israel was an incredible year of freedom and reconciliation, like ridiculous, like where they just, any kind of debts you owed, you were just set free from. And the land itself got rest in a Sabbath year and in the Jubilee year. And I truly mean going into 2023 that God, there's been so much on our physical property. There's been a lot of work of the land that's taken place. And I believe in 2023, God's divinely restraining us from expanding our physical building at this time. A lot of us, we get really excited. What can I see that God is doing? Right? And we get excited about new buildings and new this, that, new that. No, we're going deeper into the hope of the gospel. We're going deeper in our spiritual life because I believe what God wants to do for the next 10 years, He needs to get something in us to be able to handle it. Do you hear me today, Fathom? So that's the first thing, to be anchored in the hope of the gospel. The second is I think God wants to take us deeper and anchor us in true Christian community. We are only, as a church, we are only as strong as our relationships, and our relationships are only as strong as the love that's a part of them. We are only as strong. I think 2020 showed us we were pretty strong in our relationships, and our love was strong because it was an opportunity that we could have fractured and fallen apart like many churches did. But there was true Christian community there. And I know so many of you, you've come new to this church body and you're still growing in relationships, and we're so glad that you're here. But we want to help you go deeper to be anchored in Christian community. Typically, we kick off every single year. We've been doing it for probably the past 5 or 6 years. We kick off the year with a season of prayer and fasting, 21 days of prayer and fasting to launch the year. And I'll be honest, every year we've done that, God takes us deeper and deeper spiritually as a church. I can almost mark a line in the sand that when we began that practice at the beginning of the year, it was a spiritual shift in our church. And so it's become almost a routine for us every year, a tradition for us to launch the year, to consecrate ourselves and say, God, whatever you have for us. We're going to still do that, but what I really feel so deeply in my heart, and as I've talked to others about this, they felt really confirmed in this, moving into this 10-year anniversary and this season of Jubilee, this anchoring year, that God actually wants us to experience a season of feasting. A season of feasting. And hey, we're still going to have a season of prayer together. We're still going to be reading through the book of Acts together, which is going to be awesome. We're going to read it January 1st to 28th, and that 28th, 29th is our weekend anniversary. That's our 10-year anniversary. So it's going to be amazing as we're just anticipating what God's going to do, preparing ourselves. But this season of feasting is going to be a little bit different than what our Januaries usually are, and it's a time to grow in true Christian community. We've got something really fun planned right in the middle of January, leading up to that big feast at the end of the month. We're planning an event that's just kind of a dinner party type thing. And so ladies, if you've ever been a part of one of our Bloom events, we'll have one of those in here. That's always an amazing night. The ladies love that. So we'll have a Bloom event in here, and that same night out in the backyard, the men are gonna do like a steak night. And so we're gonna have the grills going, like bring your own meat, and we're gonna toss some horseshoes and cornhole and just hang out and have a man night. We're gonna have a party for the kids too next door. So it's just gonna be a season of feasting, not only in the month of January and our anniversary and that big event I was just talking about, but even in February, we're gonna be hosting dinner parties around the city as a time for us to get to know one another, a time for us to bond and grow in fellowship and feasting, to really begin, I think, setting the foundation for what God wants to do in us as a body, getting connected and really enjoying this season of feasting. Because in the month of March, we're doing a pivot with, and really going a lot deeper with what we've called anchor groups for many years. We're kind of doing away with what anchor groups have been. We've tweaked them over the years, and we're going to be calling them anchor communities. And you say that's not a big shift, but I believe God wants to do actually a major shift. For 4 or 5 years, we've just been really compelled that among the things that we value and we're trying to foster within our group life, our community life, and discipleship, we really think friendships are enormously important to that. We think it's a felt need within our culture. I think many of you in this room and online would say, yeah, I really need good Christian friends. Even those of you that are here every single week, and you may say, there's actually a hole in my life where I don't feel like I've got good Christian friends that I can call upon that would be there for me in an instant. Maybe you do. I pray many of you do. But I know it's an intense longing and it's a need in each of our lives. And so that's a huge part. But what we realized within our groups, what we were doing is like, hey, we want you to become deep friends. And so pick a topic to gather around, hang out for 2 or 3 months, and then we're going to break up the group in 2 or 3 months. And so we felt like we were kind of shooting ourselves in the foot and shooting really what you're trying to develop and foster these deep friendships. We're kind of breaking them up on the regular. And so we're kind of doing away with that. And really these groups will be kind of not have an end cycle. They'll kind of have different ebbs and flows. Some of them will meet weekly, some bi-weekly. Some of them will meet over coffee for breakfast. Some of them will do full feasts on Sunday nights or whatever it might be. But you're going to be developing friendships, deepening and strengthening friendships. We think it's also really important to be developing care at the anchor community level. Because as we grow as a church, we're in multiple services on different nights of the week. We live in different parts of town, and sometimes we feel like we can't connect. And so we're going to be encouraging you to connect with those people that you can, right? Connect with those in your neighborhood. Connect with those a little bit closer. Those that you already have relationships with, go deeper with them and develop a community that will your friendships will grow, that care will grow deeper. And spiritual growth, because in our heart, what we really want is we want every single person every single person to feel known, to really feel known. Like some of you right in here, you've walked in today, you're sitting at home online, and you're like, nobody knows what I'm going through. And we want to provide space. We want to foster community, deep friendships in which you can feel known, really growing, and fully engaged in the mission of God. That's our heart for you. And so we're honestly, we've been praying over this. And for some of you, like that doesn't seem like a big shift. I'm telling you, it's a major shift, and it's a setup for what God wants to do in the long term for Fathom Church. So I'm really, really excited about what that's going to mean coming up in March. If you're interested in hosting and leading, and that just begins to stir and start a fire within you, we can't wait to meet with you and kind of get that strategy rolling and ready to roll out in March. But we're going to spend those first couple of months feasting. That's going to roll in. See what we're trying to do here? We're going to set the table with friendships and building relationships, and then launch into this new season of Anchor Communities. And the final thing that I really believe and feel so deeply convinced that 2023 is going to mean for us is that God wants to anchor us and take us deeper into our call to live on mission. To each of us individually. I think this is our vision for the church for 2023, but I really believe this is an individual vision for your life. I pray that you'll grab a hold of this in your own spirit and say, God, I want to go deeper in the hope of the gospel. I want to go deeper in what real Christian community means. God, I want to go deeper in what it means for me to live on mission. Not for just what it means, but I want to know personally, God, would you take me deeper? And so I pray you'll get a vision for your own life in this way. We're going to continue to do that through our services. I'm super excited about what God's doing through Thursday nights. We're going to keep those rolling. We're going to be taking a break in January because we're going to be hosting some of these other events from our Thursdays, but those are going to be relaunching again in February. We just love what God's doing there. And so that's going to keep rolling. I love the passage in Matthew 28. It is our mission statement as a church. It's the mission statement that God gave us, Christ gave us. Go make disciples of all nations. That word nations is really the word ethne. When we think of nations, we think of a land that's been marked off and it's, there's a territory line, but really it's the word ethne, which means tribes or people groups. And here's what I know about the gospel is, and it being reached into our hearts, is God uses each of us to reach a tribe. Different people. That tribe may be your coworkers, it may be your homeschool group, it may be your neighborhood, it may be your racial ethnic group, it may be people in your same demographic, whatever that might be. It might just be the people you used to run the streets with and get into trouble with, and now that's your tribe that you're called to go reach. And I believe that for each one of us, I want him to just wake up in our heart an ethne, a tribe that we are called to reach, so that we understand we're called to live and go on mission every single day. We're also, as a church, collectively, we're doubling down on our investments in a lot of things in 2023. We're raising the stakes of our investment into local and global missions. We've doubled what we're giving to Kim's Open Door. We've doubled what we're doing or more to the Emmanuel Orphanage overseas in Kenya. We've added on incredible ministries like what used to be called Student Go, Andrew and Autumn Steyer, their ministry. We've added that a part of our local missions. That name is actually going to be called Always Going. That's a new name, getting the word out there. You can check that out. But we're super excited about the ways that we're continuing to do that. But I believe in 2023, it's a year of sowing and growing into missions. Sowing and going, I said growing, and going into missions. Over the past couple years, with all the travel concerns and all those restraints, we haven't been able to go. And so in 2023, we are going. We're going to be going personally, sharing the good news of the gospel. We're going to be helping empower you to do that. We're also going to continue to see what God does through our food pantry. It's just been amazing to watch that ministry grow to reach over 100 families just this past couple of weeks. But one of the things that we are going to try to raise money for through our legacy fund is a commercial transit van. We've got some really cool opportunities, but people are kind of throwing stuff in the bed of their trucks and back of the vans, and there's just a lot of food coming in, so the use of a commercial transit van will be extremely helpful for us. But where I want to end today is telling you about some mission trip opportunities that I think are going to be sowing opportunities or going opportunities for you in 2023. And the first of that is to Kenya. I've been trying to get back to Kenya for like 5 years now, and excited to be leading a team in early May. We were actually planning this. Some of you will remember actually early last January. It fell through for some different reasons, but I'm excited that we're pushing for early May this year. So if you've ever wanted to go and be a part of that ministry there in Emmanuel Orphanage and get that experience and serve there at the church there, right on the edge of the slums, I think you'll be moved by it. It's an incredible ministry that we support. We've been supporting for like 8 years now. You've given thousands and thousands of dollars there. I'd love to get some of you there, seeing it up close. Also, some of you may know Heath and Janelle Coleman, who are part of this church family, who have started a church, really a youth ministry that turned into a church down in the Dominican Republic. They'll be back with us here shortly, and we'll be able to connect with them. And this coming summer, we're going to be taking a mission trip to partner with them in the Dominican. And then also in the month of October, we're really looking forward in 2023 to be taking a trip to Israel. Taryn and I have been looking forward to a trip here and planned it like several times, but with all the COVID stuff, that trip got canceled and pushed back and canceled and pushed back. Anybody been there with your plans? And we were like, why, God, why does this keep happening? And we really believe in our heart it's because we there's a lot of reasons, but that it's going to be an opportunity now for others to be able to join us on this journey. So if you've ever had that dream in your heart, we're giving you plenty of time to fundraise and be a part of that. So be on the lookout for these trips. Maybe it's something that you can sow into, or that God calls you to go and be a part. But I'm excited what it means for us to be anchored in the hope of the gospel and true Christian community in 23. And also deeper and deeper into living out the mission of God that he has given us. Do y'all receive that today? Y'all receive that today? I pray that God really gives you a vision for that in your own personal life. And then we're going to do that together. And I can only imagine the power of this if each of us embrace this individually. The power of that corporately is going to be immense. So many lives are going to be transformed. We're going to be so much stronger because of it in so many ways. And we're going to be a light, a city on the hill that cannot be hidden, that Jesus called us to be. So we're really looking forward to 2023. I just like at the beginning of December, before we hit Christmas, get that in your spirit, get that in your heart, get you praying about that and receiving that as we move into 2023.